episode number 62. A little update. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton. Thanks for tuning in. I didn't know what to call this one, so I called it a little update. But anyhow, I'm going down to Mike's house tomorrow morning. I'm all packed. Just had a couple of coaching sessions, and let's see, I scheduled one with Daryl for next week, a week from today. And so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm going down there. Carlos is going to meet me. He's in Vegas right now. He's staying in Vegas, and then he's flying out to Oceanside tomorrow afternoon. I think he gets there at like 3:00. And I'm going to drive down there, meet up with Mike, hopefully around 1. And then we'll go pick up Carlos, and I think we're shooting that day, but I'm not sure. I'm not flying. I'll get to that in a minute. That was interesting. But yeah, so we're all going to meet up down there. We're going to shoot the second video of the series. So if you haven't seen the first one, go to HeadsUpPoker.Poker. And Mike shot one by himself and with his son for the first series. It's called Poker Pro Year 1. So it's about him and his life, trying to make it as a poker pro and what it's like the first year. So Carlos and I are going to go down and film episode 2 of that. And I don't know if it'll be up on the website when this comes out or not. It might be a little bit after that, but keep an eye out for that. If you go to our website and then click on the videos tab, you can see the first one. But I don't know if the second one will be up there in time by the time this comes out. We'll see. But it'll be shortly afterwards. But yeah, so that's what we got so far. We're probably going to be playing at Mike's casino, Ocean's 11. Carlos and I are going to share a room. Carlos just booked the room, and we got a hotel. Yeah, and the plane. As my wife and I call him, his name is Dusty. Dusty had a little incident, and it was pretty interesting. I feel lucky and fortunate and glad to be here. Just before my wife left for her training for American Airlines, before she flew down to Dallas, the day before, we're like, you know what? Let's make it a date day. We're not going to see each other for probably 6 weeks. Let's go flying somewhere. So we got in the plane and we flew. It's about a 45-minute flight up to a little Indian casino up there, San Ynez. It's a Chumash casino north of Santa Barbara. We fly up there and we get the buffet at the casino, and then we take a little, tried to play a little 1-2, but there was a long waiting list, and I'm like, we're not going to waste our day sitting here on a waiting list. So we went up to Solvang, kind of tooled around, went to a little thrift store, got a couple things for Amazon. So I couldn't help myself. And then we get back to the airport, start up the plane, do the run up. Everything's great. We're flying back to Santa Paula. My wife flew on the way back, and I let her know. I said, when you're ready for me to take over, just let me know. So once we got over the city, she said, okay, you go ahead and take the controls. So I took the controls and was flying over the city. And basically what you have to do when you're coming in on an airport is you have to enter what's called the traffic pattern. And you got to come in and you basically follow the flow of traffic around the airport. It's kind of like merging on and off of a freeway. So I do that. I enter the traffic pattern. There's 2 other guys there behind me. And one kind of landed before me. The other one's behind me. And there's the original guy that landed did what's called a touch and go. He takes off. So I'm leading the path. Once I get to about midfield, so if you can imagine, if you're flying over an airport and you look down on your right side, underneath your right wing, and you see you're about halfway down the airport. You've down the runway. You've flown about half the distance of the runway, and the runway's on your right-hand side. At that point, what you do is you pull the power. So it's kind of like, think of it as you're exiting a freeway. You take your foot off the gas. You put on your turn signal. and you start to exit. Well, that's what you do in a plane. You pull the power and you dip your wings and you put the flaps down, which are basically, they lower the flaps and it makes you fly slower. So I pull the power and the power only comes out halfway. And this has never happened before. So I pull it a little bit harder and it's stuck. I can't push the gas in and I can't pull it out. And so to give you kind of an idea where we're at, to climb, you need to fly, at least in my airplane, you need to do it at about 2,700 RPMs, 2,700 revolutions per minute. That's how fast the engine's going. To descend, and when you land, you want it at about 600 RPMs. You want it pulled all the way out. Well, where it's stuck at about 2,000 RPMs, which is just fast enough to keep you flying about level, but you're going to be losing 200 or 300 feet per minute. So you're not going to be able to maintain steady level flight. You're not going to be able to climb, but you're going to be going down slightly. What it also means is that this RPM, you can't turn without stalling and falling out of the sky. So if you make a right-hand turn to turn towards the airport and land, you're going to stall. The airplane's just going to drop. There's not going to be enough air running over the wings to allow you to fly safely. It'll just drop like a rock. So we're in a dilemma. We're at about 850 feet. The airport is about 600 feet below us. It's 250 feet off above sea level. So we got 600 feet to play with, and that's it. So what I did was I quickly threw the flaps all the way down. If you can imagine when you're in a big plane and you hear the burn on the wings, and you look out over the wings and you can see the flaps kind of coming down. They're like these scoops coming down on the wings. I put those all the way down. And what that does is it slows the airplane down. So it lowers the stall speed. So in other words, if you normally stall at 70 knots, this one will make it stall at 50 knots. So I put those all the way down, and I dive the airplane. I dive straight down, and I dive straight towards the end of the runway, and I turn at the very last second. I flare the plane, and at that point, I yank on the throttle because we're still, it's like exiting the freeway at 50 miles an hour, and you got a turn coming up. Is what this is like, right? So I yank on the throttle to pull it out, and this time I pulled as hard as I could, and it did break free, and then it went down to idle. So now I'm not chugging along the freeway, because if I hadn't done that, if it didn't come out, I was going to have to turn off the airplane with the key. But we made it. Obviously, or I wouldn't be giving this podcast, but it was definitely eye-opening for me, and it really made me realize why I went through all the training that I did, and my flight instructor put me through, is doing short approaches. Nothing like that, but a lot of different little scenarios that were put together that kind of, 6 or 8 scenarios like that. Each piece kind of covers a bit of what I had to do. So it was definitely one of the more exciting moments in my life. That was it was fun in that aspect. As soon as we landed, Alejandra, we parked the plane and turned it off, and we both just kind of let out a big sigh. And then she says something to the effect of, "I think I got to throw up." Like, I don't blame you one bit there. But yeah, we got out of the plane, and we were kind of speechless for a little while, and then we hugged and kind of shared a tear, and then we parked the plane, and the next day I called the mechanic. So it's in the shop right now. I won't be flying down to Oceanside. I'll be driving, but nonetheless, I'll be there. So anyhow, I thought you guys might like that story. I had to call and make sure I told my parents before I talked about it on the podcast, but I did. So anyhow, let's see what else is new. I wanted to give you guys some kind of strategy content. I've been able to coach now that I've got an editor now that I'm not editing the podcast anymore. So that's really cool. I'm able to play more, study more, and coach more. I didn't realize how much time I spent doing that, but yeah, at least another 2 hours a week I can put towards coaching or studying. And one thing I'm noticing is there's a common theme in all my students. I mean, some guys have bet sizing tells, and other guys, are not raising too much or whatever. But some guys, or what they're all doing, what they all have in common is there's a couple of things that I think could really improve, guys that are starting out with their game, and I don't know which one is more important here. They're both extremely important, and before I started recording, I was like, I don't know which one to put as number one and which one to put as number two. And I keep flip flopping. So I would just say if you're doing one or both of these, you're doing better than most of the population. So number one is, the first one is you need a warm up routine. You got to have something that you do before every session that you do the same way every time. So you're like a trained robot. You're like a trained dog. When you go through this routine, you're in the zone and you're ready to play. That's one of them. The other one is using a push fold chart. It's super easy. Go to type in push fold chart for Hold'em. I'll put a link to one in the show notes here. Got to be using one of those. Got to. I think with those two things, that is probably the two biggest tips that I could give to guys that want to take their game to the next level. If you're playing a fair amount each week and you're not doing these things, then I don't even know if you could be a winning player. Maybe it's possible, but I really don't think so. So push fold chart and a warm-up routine. And when you're doing a warm-up routine, it can be anything as simple as I heard Alex Fitzgerald say, like, you sit down to play poker, you have a package of M&Ms next to your computer, and you take one M&M, you eat it, and now you're in the zone. I guess that's better than doing nothing, maybe pick something a little healthier like an almond, but, I think that's better than doing nothing, but I think really, you should be no more than 15 minutes is what, Jared Tindler says, but I think anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes is plenty good. Just something that you do every single time before you play. For me personally, I listen to one of Elliot Rowe's tapes, and then I do this breathing exercise where it kind of makes you feel a little bit, I guess lightheaded is the word. I'm not sure. It makes you feel extremely calm. Lightheaded is not the right way. Yeah, it makes you feel like very relaxed and calm, this breathing exercise. And then I look at myself in the mirror. I give a quick pep talk, and boom, I'm ready to play. It takes about, 12 minutes, something like that. No more than 15. But yeah, a warm-up routine and use a push-fold chart. Just have it printed out next to you, next to the computer, and reference it. There's going to be all these weird little spots, and I see this with all my students. And when they fold something or they shove something, and I can tell by the blind stack, and I look and I go, "What push-fold chart are you using?" Oh, well, yeah, okay. Let's start with that. Okay. So those are the two big tips that I can give you. Let's see what else we got. Let's do a hand. I pulled a hand up here, and let's see. All right, this is in a this is a $33 4K guaranteed. It's an 8 max. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's a $44 8 max guaranteed. It 4K 8 max guaranteed. We are on the button. We have 41 big blinds, and we got 41 big blinds on the button with Queen 9 of spades. Okay, so it folds to us. So if we're playing our A game, we should be opening over the long run 50% of hands from the button, and Queen 9 suited definitely falls within that range. So we got 41 bigs. The small blind has 141 bigs, and the big blind is Reg that I play with quite a bit. He has 41 bigs, the same as we do. So we open here to 622. Okay, so blinds are 150, 300. We open to just a little bit more than 2x. So from the button, generally speaking, you want to open 2x to 2.2x. Okay, so not much more than that, and no less than, you can't less than min raise it, but min raise to 2.2. From middle position, we should be opening like 2.5x, and then early position, 3x. You could do that, or you could min raise everywhere. So a lot of regs do this. They'll just min raise from any position because it's easier. And when you have 8 tables up, you just got to click one button and it's done. You don't have to type anything in. But if you're playing 1 or 2 tables, you should, min raising from everywhere is good because it's polarized. You're not going to, you're not going to telegraph that you have aces or that you have, 9-7 suited. They're not going to know because you're raising the same. They're also not going to know when you raise from the same amount, 3x, 2.5, and 2.2 on the button. They're not going to know there either, but it takes more time and it takes more effort and you have to think. If you're only 1 or 2 tabling, or I would say up to 4, we should be typing those in. It's better to be raising more from early position and less from late position because you got to get through more people. But if you're throwing up a bunch of tables, then min is fine. Okay, so from the button with Queen of Spades, 9 of Spades, we raise to what is that? 2.1. We raised to 622, and the big blind calls 622. So we go heads up to the flop. The pot is 1604, and the flop is now Ace, King 3 with 2 hearts. Okay, and we've got the Queen 9 of Spades. There's no spade out there. So there's 2 hearts, Ace, King 3, 2 hearts, and the big blind checks to us. Okay, at this point, I think as a regular here, I believe that he's calling pretty wide in the big blind. He's a winning player. I think he's calling extremely wide in the big blind to a button raise, especially from me. So at this point, I think he could have just about any 2 cards, except for the complete crap like 9-2 offsuit, 10-4 offsuit, things like that. But I think 80% of hands here fall into his range. Now, ones that he would check to me, I could picture him checking an ace. I could picture him checking king. I think that he's probably betting a 3, and I think he's checking all of there, everything that missed. I thought about betting here. And I think the reason I didn't was I thought my hand was good. And I thought my hand was pretty good against his range. If he did have an ace or a king, I didn't want to put any more money in the pot. I thought that a check behind here, keep the pot small. I do have some showdown value here, heads up with the queen high. So let's take it to the turn and see what happens. I also check behind on the flop. The turn is the 5 of hearts. So the board is now ace, king, 5-3 with 3 hearts. Villain checks again. Okay, at this point, what I could do is I could obviously check behind, or I could bet. If I'm betting, I'm completely turning my hand into a bluff. I mean, any hand that's calling, I'm going to... Yeah, I mean, he could have like a queen of hearts that he could be calling for the flush draw, but I think anything I'm betting here, he's folding everything that I beat, and he's calling with everything that has me beat. So I just don't see any reason to bet here. He's going to raise me with anything that has me crushed. I think, even though there's 3 hearts on the board, I think we still have some showdown value, although mild with queen high. So he checked. I elected to check behind. And then we go to the river, which is the king of spades. So the board paired, we got ace, king, king, 5-3. And the order it came in was ace, king, 3. And then the turn was the 5. And the river was the king of spades. So we have 3 hearts out on there. 2 that came on the flop, 1 completed on the turn. And into a pot of 1604. Both our starting stacks were 41 big blinds. Villain now bets out 1890. So he bets a little bit more than half pot. And he does it on the king of spade river. So what are we putting him on at this point? He checked the flop. He checked the turn. We have queen high. So we've got queen 9 of spades for queen high. Queen 9 high, actually. So what is he betting here? If he has an ace, why didn't he bet the turn? If he has a king, why did he wait until the river? Because he obviously could have bet it on the turn as well. And the fact that another king came out makes it even less likely that he has a king, because now there's only 2 left. Did he really check a flush draw on the flop and then check the flush when he made it on the turn, and then now he's betting it on the river? I don't think so. I think here, queen, the hands that we're not beating is like, as far as non-pairs, I don't think he's value betting a 5 or a 3 here. So, then it comes down to what hands are we, he could be betting a 5. I guess that is possible. But with the sizing, I just don't think so. More than half, I think he would go for thinner value there. I think he'd make it smaller. So what hands are we beating that are non-pairs? I'm sorry, what hands are we not beating that are non-paired hands? So the queen jack, we're not beating. Queen 10, we have queen 9, and everything else we kind of beat. So all the 9-10s, all the jack 10s, all the random small cards that he has. He could be doing this with their 3 or 5, but I don't think so. Nothing really seems to make sense. And, I try to listen to my gut, and when things don't seem to make sense, then I tend to call, which is what I did here. And villain shows 8-9 offsuit for 9 high. And we take down a pretty nice sized pot. So I was going through some of my hands that I played this month, and this was one that I tagged and kind of stuck out to me, and I thought it might be interesting or make for some good a good little strategy part on the podcast. And that's pretty much it. I am looking for one more student. I'm able to fill up my schedule a little bit more. You guys know me. I'm never happy unless I'm busy. So I'm looking for one more guy or gal that wants to get better at online tournaments or sit and goes as well. We could do this as well. Bovada or America's Card Room. Let's do it. Hit me up at HeadsUpPoker.Poker. I'll throw you, once you send me an email, then I'll throw you my Skype handle and phone number, and we'll figure out exactly what you want to work on. We'll do the first hour for $10, and then after that, $50 an hour. So you can try it out, see what you think, and if I can't help you get better, then I know enough guys that can. But I'm confident, and I know that I haven't had a guy yet that's come to me, and I haven't been able to help him. So I look forward to it. I enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. It forces me to learn as well and to get better, and I can help other guys in the process do it. And I just dig it. It's fun. I've been doing it all day today, and I, I'm still excited. I still feel like I have energy. But anyhow, I think that's about it. I just wanted to throw out a quick one before I headed down and met with Carlos and Mike, and just give you guys a quick update. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and here is your weekly motivational speech.
Motivation doesn't get anything done. Motivation gets you going. Discipline, commitment, strong habits is what gets things done. Motivation is very ungrounded, right? It's all up here. Whoa, I feel good. But when it comes time to bring it into practice, you cannot rely on it. Motivation is just a feeling. Grounded action is what gets things done. So here's my invitation to you. The next time you feel motivated, don't do anything grand and exciting or set any lofty expectations for yourself to stay that way or whatever the case may be. Get a pad and paper and write down 1 or 2 things that you're going to commit to doing every single day, no matter what. You're gonna use that motivation to build a machine for yourself.